Emisión.net.
Hello again and welcome to Letter from England, broadcasting for AC Press and the Spanish Evangelical Alliance. This is our last broadcast before the summer break, and we wish all of our listeners a very pleasant time. This week we're looking at comments by Manuel Suarez, Vice Chairman of the Evangelical Alliance and political spokesman for the group, who accuses the Spanish government of what he calls tridentine intolerance. While the Catholic Church has put pressure on the government to modify its plans to liberalise the abortion law, and the government has responded by saying that laws are only bound by the Constitution, Suarez argues that the recent attitude of the government is akin to the most intolerant Catholicism of the past, which rejects any ideology different from its own. Suarez argues that the conflict between the government and the Catholic Church goes back a long way, while the problem for the latter is that it is too accustomed to being in a position of power. He says its main difficulty is moral, because it finds it hard to show that it wants to persuade rather than impose its views. He says the Catholic Church is far too used to imposing its beliefs on others from the position of the majority, and that the government is now taking a leaf out of the Catholic Church's book. He demonstrates this by, in terms of the Catholic Church, by saying that many Catholics do not even follow the moral teaching of their church. But at the same time, he says, the government has fallen into tridentine intolerance, as for instance in its refusal to allow for conscientious objection in the abortion law. And just like the 16th century Council of Trent, the current socialist regime is dogmatic, denying the basic rights of those who disagree with it, just as Trent did, says Suarez, in the name of the majority. He also says that the common way of proceeding in this is to ridicule or demonize the views of those who think differently, and certainly Christians are suffering at the hands of government in this respect. Suarez believes that anti-clericalism is greater in Spain than anywhere in Northern Europe, and that they understand much better there the principle of church-state separation, saying Protestant societies are by definition pluralist, not dogmatic, nor do they try and impose one moral order. In Spain, though, he says, the government uses the same language as the Catholic Church, telling it that the only moral order, quote-unquote, is that spelt out in the Constitution, in much the same way as Catholicism used to impose its one moral order, which of course was what it taught. Suarez says that this undermines the very fabric of democracy, and that it is dangerous to think that government legislation is somehow separate from moral principles, as the laws themselves reflect an understanding of what a human being is like, and how he should be governed. Suarez says Christians must be heard in this debate because they have their own moral principles, just like everyone else has theirs. But he does say, in conclusion, that Christians also need to be self-critical, as they are in danger of simply saying no to every proposed change, whereas they should say yes to good and productive policies. He says, I quote, "We Christians should not take on board the principles of others, but we should be willing to talk and to reach agreement where possible." And he also reminds evangelicals that they should not just get exercised over sexual legislation, but about anything which goes against biblical teaching, and that could mean anything from foreign policy to regionalist politics. Well, thank you for listening to Letter from England, broadcasting each week at emission.net. Goodbye for now.
Emisión.net